Come on into the ditch. I'm your resident ditch witch, Tara Táin, and we're about to get witchy, whether you like it or not. So today is finally time to catch up on some of the work I've been doing here during my artist's residency as a multimedia artist in Táin Art Centre, Dundalk. And it's been really exciting times. I've just finished up filming all of my membership videos, which are consisting of me doing a chapter by chapter read along and creative analysis of Thomas Kinsella's translation of the Táin Bó Cuailnge, and that's all in honour of my finished project, which you may have heard me mentioning before, which is basically I plan to modernise the first chapter, the pillow talk scene from the Táin Bó Cuailnge, and it's basically Queen Maebh and her husband Ailill. It starts the whole thing off with just what's essentially a domestic argument. Ailill makes a very innocent comment about how he thinks that Maebh is better off now than she was before she married him. But Maebh has other ideas on the matter, and the more you dig into it, the more I think she's kind of right to have issues with it, because there was a whole thing in ancient Ireland about being a kept woman or being a kept man, and somebody who had won the queenship of Connacht by herself because of her personality, because of her traits, and also because of her family standing. She was chosen from all of her many sisters to be the next queen, or to be the queen of Connacht. And you know, for Ailill to come along and say, well, I reckon you're better off now than you were before you married me, that's kind of like he's claiming some ownership over her amazingness and her sovereignty as a queen. So obviously I'm really looking forward to doing my ditch witch thing to this opening chapter. By the end of the chapter, it's only like 8 pages long, but Ailill seems to have backpedaled a little bit and decided that it's probably in his better interest to help his wife attain the brown bull of Cooley, which will then make his assets no greater than hers, because there's very little difference between what the two of them have. And if Maebh can just get the lend of this bull for 1 year, then she can feel safe in the knowledge that her queenship is safe, that she still has equal to or slightly greater assets than her husband, that she is a sovereign, unkept woman in her own right. So that's essentially, if you're not familiar with it, what the Táin Bó Cuailnge is about. And it was written down during very misogynistic times, during medieval times, by medieval monks. So you can imagine there's a little bit of bias going on there. And personally, I have found the viewpoint of people like Laura O'Brien incredibly refreshing when it comes to the Táin Bó Cuailnge. It's given me a whole new in to the story and a new reason to try and really get into the nuts and bolts of it. And it's just made it more accessible for me as a woman. It can be difficult to read these old stories when, you know, there's things in it like, oh well, you had an amazing bull, Maebh, but it didn't want to be ruled by a woman, so it crossed over to my herd instead. You know, I mean, things like that don't really make the story very enjoyable for the non-male readers. So I'm looking forward to giving it a go. Now, to be very honest, the resources it would take to retell the entire story of the Táin Bó Cuailnge, I can't even imagine. I couldn't put a figure on it, I couldn't put a time scale on it, and so I think I did the right thing in just choosing the opening chapter, and I hope to make it more accessible, like it has been made for me, for a large number of people. I want to get as many people as possible interested in this story because it's epic. It's one of the biggest and most interesting ancient epic tales from Europe, as far as I know. So I think it deserves more attention, I think it deserves to be revisited, and I think it also deserves new perspective. After all these centuries, we deserve to hear another side of things too. So when I'm sitting down to think about how I can modernise this ancient epic tale, which centres largely around themes like agriculture and the wealth that derives from agriculture, and also the status of somebody who owned a lot of cows, who owned a lot of land, that sort of thing. Now, land is obviously still very important in Ireland today, but agriculture seems to be falling by the wayside. In fact, as far as I know, an awful lot of Irish farmers have been operating at a loss for quite some time now. There have been some pretty big high-profile protests over it. So it's a matter of finding how to make this story relevant to people who aren't quite as interested in bulls and yearling heifers. So the way I see it, there's a few options I have. Before I sit down to decide one, I really have to think about, what does storytelling mean to us today? What does mythology mean to us today? How is it relevant to us? Does it still figure in our everyday life? What is the doorway that I must penetrate in order to put this story into 1,000 people's minds? Well, social media is obviously still one of our favourite ways to get stories. TV and film, anyone who watched a lot of that during lockdown can attest to the fact that storytelling is still so important to all cultures today. But being traditionally known for it, of course, in Ireland, our taste for storytelling has not declined in the slightest over the centuries. And in our music too, we're still very much prone to an old ballad telling us the story of something that has happened in recent times, recording history through music. So that's our bardic tradition that we're also very, very well known for. And it's still going strong here in Ireland. Even video games, you'll find now huge mythical elements to a lot of the video games that are available out there. The younger generation, they love it too. I know there's a lot of shoot 'em ups and all that kind of thing going on, but really when you look back to the Táin Bó Cuailnge, violence was pretty much the main thrust of the story. So at that point I started to run into a couple of difficulties. So what I'm going to do is just describe to you what I see to be my options for modernising, updating this age-old tale of an argument between a husband and a wife. So in scenario A, I would see myself doing it as maybe a legal thriller, removing all of those combat battles between warriors and armed men and replacing it with fights in the courtroom. The battle of words that occurs when a legal battle is at the paperwork stages and how overwhelming that can be. Now, legal thrillers are still very popular today. We love an old televised or fictionalized court case, and I think this one has some real merit. I think it would be quite accessible for anybody who's into that kind of legal tussling or just the law in general. Of course, I need to research and know an awful lot about how the law works these days, but I'm not going to rule that one out. I think one of the bigger reasons that I might want to not consider that is because it also kind of undermines some of the deaths which happen. Some of the deaths are quite poignant. I kind of think that if I make it a legal thriller, it might be just a little bit more difficult to really give those things the gravity that they deserve. Now, having said that, for only chapter 1, I think this option would work out great. It's just, I'm also trying to think that if at any point I decide to go further with this and to adapt a little bit more of the Táin Bó Cuailnge, well, I want to have chosen a kind of premise that is going to work for all of it. So that'd be the biggest one, is that the deaths don't really mean as much if it's really only, you know, the death of a reputation or the death of a career or somebody having to declare a bankruptcy or that kind of thing. I know that can still be really, really devastating, but these were really tragic, really poignant deaths in the story, and you would just need to find another way to bring that kind of gravity to the situation. I nearly said situation. Borderlands problems. So scenario B, crime underworld. Gangs and drug lords and companies of hired thugs. So this is obviously still a trope that is very popular today. If you've got people operating outside of the law, then it works quite well. You just have to look at The Sopranos or Breaking Bad. HBO loves that shit. And I think if you could find a way to make the Táin Bó Cuailnge about the stealing of something that was a little bit more illicit, then you might be on to a winner with that. The one massive con, as far as I'm concerned, on that option is that it might feed just a little bit too much into the kinds of unwarranted thuggery that Maebh in particular is often accused of. It has been said that she went about this whole cattle raid of Cooley for no good reason other than her own arrogance and pride and vanity, and to be honest, I just can't really get on board with that. I mean, maybe it's a matter of survival in the crime underworld. Maybe somebody else is planning on taking her out. Is it going to be her husband Ailill? Well, not very likely, considering he ends up later on helping her. So that one kind of requires a little bit more nuance. I think quite a lot of thought would need to be put into it. But again, I think it offers a really intriguing possibility. And then you've got your scenario C, where the whole thing is just virtual reality or some form of that. So a big part of my project, I'm hoping, is going to be some digital artistic design as part of it. So I'm planning on adding some quite interesting, quite magical, artistic elements to this piece once it has been done. It's going to be shot in front of a green screen. That's all I'm going to say for now. So it does kind of lend itself to the idea of doing the whole thing, or a significant portion of it, within virtual reality. And there are, if you have young people in your life, you may well be aware that there are these leagues and tournaments and very real world competitions which go on at many levels, all the way up to global competitions, where some of the players can make large amounts of money. We're talking hundreds of thousands, even millions and more here. So not to mention all the sponsorship deals and things like that would come afterwards too. But I think this method would offer a really dynamic lens through which to view the Táin Bó Cuailnge. It's a lot easier to slide some humour in there, which, you know, is very important to what I do, and at times it's a very tragic tale, so I think that would be much welcome. The one glaringly obvious, massive downside to doing virtual reality in any way, whether it's just a little bit of virtual reality or whether you do the whole thing by that method, is that the resources needed to do that, especially when you're not a practicing digital artist like I'm not, then it seems restrictively, almost impossibly difficult to carry that out. To be very honest, I think if it was that easy to recreate the Táin Bó Cuailnge in the form of a video game, somebody would probably already have had a go at it, and I'm not sure that I am personally the person to do that. But maybe I can offer the inspiration for somebody who might. Maybe at some point I might collaborate with somebody who might. I certainly know that with the digital elements I am planning on using in just this, the first chapter, it would certainly lend itself to moving the thing to a virtual playing field, and you could get away with an awful lot more. Again, the deaths aren't maybe as tragic, they're maybe not as weighty, but again, humour is possible, so you might just turn the whole thing on its head and make it a sort of a comedy. I don't know. What do you think? Opinions in the comments below, please. Tell me what you think about my ideas for modernising the Táin Bó Cuailnge. Let me know what you'd like to see or how you think it should be done. Or if you've seen any other really interesting adaptations of it, link me below or tell me about them in the comment section below, and I'll go and have a look, because I'm really keen to see what other people have done with it too. I saw a production of it, a theatrical production that was done, oh god, it must be 10 years ago or more now, actually here in Táin Arts Centre. But that's about it for my experience of the Táin Bó Cuailnge, apart from reading it, obviously. And also, if you would like to get in on that chapter by chapter read along, which I'm currently uploading on a chapter a week basis, then all you have to do is click the join button down below, or click the join link, which I've put in the description below this video, in order to sign up to one of my membership tiers. The ones you're looking for if you want to read along are Lunasa and above, so that's either the Lunasa or the Southern level, and signing up to that goes towards supporting me as well as this channel. I really appreciate everyone who has already signed up, and looking forward to meeting new members too. There's a heap of perks up there if you want to just click in and look at it. There's a load of things I'm offering apart from just the read along, but that is for now the main thrust of it. I'll be getting then into some of the behind the scenes action of actually putting this video together at the end of my residency, so at the end of April, early May kind of time. And give me a wee thumbs up if you're interested to see where this goes as well. They all really help massively towards the algorithm. And if you haven't already subscribed, then hit subscribe for more fun and witchy adventures. I upload 2 to 3 times a week and you're not going to want to miss it. Slán agus bannacht, goodbye and good luck to you.